Hi guys and girls, I'm Obsidian Ant and welcome to 3302. This is where I take a look at the news and happenings in and around Elite Dangerous. Today we take a look at the upcoming patch 2.2 with the Guardians. Frontier have asked for some locations for tourism. There's been some quite important changes to the engineers, and there's something strange going on within the Pleadies Nebula. It may be coming much quicker than anybody initially expected. On Friday, Frontier began talking about patch 2.2. The title for this upgrade is called The Guardians, and one of the highlight features of this expansion is going to be passenger missions. Of course, we still have absolutely no idea just when this patch is going to land, but chances are it's going to be much sooner than the 6 months between the release of Horizons and the release of the Engineers. And now, passenger missions, because they're passenger focused of course, will bring a much needed use to the Orca, which is a passenger liner. And along with that, we should be getting a couple of new ships. Although these weren't mentioned in the newsletter, they have been mentioned previously. There's two other passenger ships that we know of. One is the Dolphin, which I believe is smaller than the Orca, and the other is the Beluga. Now, the Beluga liner is quite potentially the largest ship in the game, at least so far. Now, the reason I suspect that is because David Braben himself has kind of mentioned it. In one of the live streams quite a long time ago, he actually said that the Beluga is so large that it cannot fit through the docking slot. At least it can't fit through the docking slot by default. It needs to do something first to actually get through, and the implication was that a part of it needs to fold away or compress down in some way. On the forums over the previous years, there's been a lot of excitement over passenger missions, quite a high anticipation level. So really, we're going to just need to wait and see exactly what Frontier are going to be able to do to deliver on that. The other big feature for the Guardians is ship launch fighters. Now, we know that the fighters can be launched under either player control or AI control, and that should hopefully bring some exciting developments and quite interesting changes. The ship you're about to launch from your ship is the Condor F-63. And quite possibly the Imperial Fighter as well. Both of these are featured in the arena mode of Elite Dangerous. Another aspect of the 2.2 update will be tourism. Now, this will form a part of passenger missions, and exactly how they work is currently unknown, but I'm really hoping that it's going to be a lot more than just simply moving from A to B with the obligatory interdictions. We have all that at the moment, and it's way past time now that Frontier start delivering on some really unique and different gameplay. So, to make these tours a reality, the passengers need some rather nice, stunning locations to visit. And with that in mind, Frontier are holding a competition on the forums where players can submit specific destinations and special destinations that Frontier will hopefully choose to include into the game. These will then form a part of these missions, the tour missions, where players will be able to take the passengers along to. And those destinations will of course feature the player name attached to them. You only have to look at all the great screenshots and videos that have been released over the previous years to know that there are a whole bunch of absolutely gorgeous locations out there. Now, if these passenger ships ultimately end up with some really high jump ranges, we could be getting to some quite distant locations in quite a short amount of time. I've got some really nice locations in mind myself, and I'll probably head along to that forum thread and submit them. Now, if you're interested in doing it likewise, there's a link to that forum thread in the video description below, so go there and by all means let Frontier know where you'd like to take your passengers to. Last week saw a minor server-side update for the Engineers. Now, whilst it was a minor change, it potentially had quite a huge impact upon the game. As you no doubt know, there's been a lot of controversy surrounding the Engineers. In my opinion, it's probably not been too well received in many respects. It's put a massive tear in the community, and I've not seen feedback like this at all for any of the other patches ever released, and that includes power play. I'll get into a bit more detail on that particular subject in another video, because this video isn't really for that sort of thing. But anyway, the update included the increase to the material and data limit. Material has now been set to a limit of 1000 and data has been set to a limit of 500, and that's actually quite a nice change. Another thing that's been put into the game, and this is for people who have been really struggling to find locations of materials, is specific locations, specific planets that people can go to find certain materials. Now, if you dock down at the Engineer's base and look at the news screen over on the far right of the UI panel, you will find that listed there are exact planets you need to go to find each individual material. Now this should be quite useful to a lot of people, especially those who have been struggling, although personally I really hope it's just a temporary fix, because it does seem to be a bit of a band-aid rather than a pure fix. Whilst it's known that materials do spawn in specific locations, for example on high metal content planets in hilly areas, that's not always a guaranteed way of getting the materials, and it's quite possible, I've done it myself, you can spend over an hour, sometimes 2 hours, just driving around on the planet, and the material after doesn't spawn, and you're left wondering, is it not spawning because you're in the wrong location, or is it not spawning because the RNG simply hasn't rolled the correct material for you? And this problem, far more than anything else, is quite simply down to how the gameplay mechanics have been implemented, and just simply having a big bright yellow flashing arrow pointing to the exact planet doesn't fix any of that. Of course, again, like with the other changes, this is a subject I'll get into a little bit deeper in another video, but for now, at least we've got a temporary fix that is going to help quite a lot of people. The little and not so little hints keep on coming that things are moving forwards towards a rather big reveal in the future, a reveal that seems to be focused on the arrival of aliens. This week in the Pleadies system on the planet Merope 2A, or for those who want to call it Merope 2A, a giant Federation battlecruiser appeared on the surface of the planet. Now this is the first time I believe that anyone's actually seen a battlecruiser, a ship of that size, actually flying around a planet, and it seems to be hovering around the barnacles on that particular planet, and we don't actually know what the barnacles are other than they seem to be of alien origin. So things certainly seem to be heating up in that regard, and in addition to that, barnacles have now been found in a number of other nebula. I believe one has been found in the Witchhead Nebula and another in the California Nebula. Now it's been quite interesting to see just how far outside of human inhabited space these sort of structures actually extend. Both those nebula are still fairly close, but getting on for a reasonable distance away from inhabited space. It's going to be interesting to see just how far they go, maybe 5,000, 10,000 or even more light years, who knows, only time for that is going to tell. Finally then, here is a really nice fan-made video. This is by a group calling themselves the Erin People's Film Board, and it centres on two characters picking up a mission, or one's picking up a mission, the other I think is requesting it. A really nicely filmed scene, opened and closed with some great special effects as well. So if you're interested in having a look at that, you can see some little clips of it going on in the background here. There's a link to the full thing in the video description below, well worth checking out. Whilst I'm on recommendations actually, Dr. Kai of Distant Worlds fame has released a new series. Now this one isn't Elite Dangerous related, it's actually Space Engine, and if you're into anything at all to do with space, the series comes really recommended. Some absolutely stunning footage of space that is very, very well narrated, and you're certainly going to learn a thing or two if you do go and check those videos out. Again, you can see them in the video description below. That brings us to the end of this episode of 3302 then. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys and girls next time. Hi guys and girls, I'm Obsidian Ant, and welcome back to Elite Dangerous. I'm once again here with my commander, Cobra Commander, and this time I'm heading out to a resource extraction site. I want to get myself involved in a bit of combat and try and make as much money as I possibly can. Now this Sidewinder is pretty much fully upgraded.